Layoffs shake the very ground beneath us. And with AI integration picking up steam all over the world, they're happening more and more frequently across nearly every industry vertical. And whether you're the one who gets laid off, one of the ones still standing, or the one who had to make the call, this is an emotional time. It's an emotional terrain that we're on. But here's the truth. Even in the most painful times, there is still a path to growth. And in this video, I'm giving you some real tools to navigate this path with resilience, clarity, and confidence, no matter the role you're in. Let's talk about it. Let me just start by saying layoffs are far more than a spreadsheet exercise. They impact identity, belonging, and emotional safety. And the aftermath of these decisions is felt across the entire ecosystem of an enterprise, of an organization, of a business. It impacts those who left, it impacts those who have remained, and it impacts those who had to announce and drive the decision forward. And any and all unprocessed emotion that's inspired as these layoffs happen can eventually turn into disengagement, distrust, and deep resistance, even for those who remain, and you strive to introduce new changes to that remaining workforce. The reality is, if you ignore the emotional impact of layoffs and across every group of individuals that's impacted, you aren't just losing people. You're losing trust, culture, and momentum. So now let's bring to light some tips to help you better navigate a layoff situation, no matter what role you may find yourself in. And I want to start with you sitting watching this video who just got laid off. Here are 4 tips to help you reclaim your power. The first of which is naming what I call the signal. It's all the emotions that you might be feeling in this moment. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? What is this that has just happened? What is it inviting within me? Am I feeling rage? Am I feeling sadness? Am I feeling upset? Am I feeling fear? Am I feeling anxiety? I want you to actually name these emotions. And this is probably more than just one sit down or one time to reflect. As you continue on where your journey will lead you next, every day take some time to name the signals, name the emotions that you're embodying, that are flowing through you because of this thing happening around you. The beauty of naming your emotion, giving language to it, is going to start giving you a bit of emotional traction, right? So you can actually hang on to what the emotions are and do something to transform them, especially if those are the emotions that are keeping you in more of a downward spiral, right? You've got to be able to get some traction so you can use those emotions, transform them, and move you forward. And it starts by recognizing what they are. The easiest way to get stuck, to get lost in a downward spiral, to feel like you have no options, is when these emotions take hold of you and you haven't given thought to naming what they are. This is such a powerful exercise because it allows you to view your emotions objectively. It's almost like you're holding these emotions as if they're these little plush little things to see them. I see you anger. I see you anxiety. I see you sadness. And when you can view them objectively, that's when you can start exploring the thoughts that are bringing your awareness into them. And you can do something about your situation, as opposed to becoming anger, becoming frustration, becoming anxiety. Then you're just acting in that emotion. You're acting as that emotion, as opposed to viewing it objectively. The second tip that I'll give you, especially if this news is new for you right now, is to take a pause, not to stay paralyzed, but rather a pause to reflect. So take the next 24 to 72 hours just to take a beat, to reflect, maybe even find something where you can find gratitude in what you've just experienced in that job. What did that job afford you? What do you have now in your toolkit, in your arsenal, in your leadership skills that you would not have had you not been a part of that company, had you not been in that role? The next tip, and this is kind of feeding off of that time of pause and reflection, is to think about what did you dislike about the role that you were just in or the company that you were a part of, and what did you really enjoy? This is really going to help inform your next moves, right? What you want to bring forward, and maybe what would you prefer not to have in your next move, in your next role, in your next part of your career? Because now, sitting in this moment of opportunity, you are going to have the ability to identify roles, areas, companies, industries where you want to go to continue to grow. And again, pulling forward what was working well and maybe leaving behind the thing that you didn't like as much. And the fourth tip is to reconnect with your innate value. This is so important because I know losing a job, getting laid off, being without work, you can start to question the value that you bring. And so I want you to reconnect with that because it is there. Trust me, it's there. One of the best exercises to do this is to think and reflect on 10 wins from the last year. Over the past 12 months, literally write this down. What were 10 wins that you achieved across your job, in your role, and over the last 12 months? List what those things are, and then reconnect again with the value that you drove by being in that position, and allow that to be your anchor, to be your motivator, to know you have so much good to give. You have so much good to give. And now you're going to be able to make another enterprise, another company, another business have that much more value because you're going to be added. This is such a powerful exercise about getting in tune with the value that you bring to the world, short of the position that you just held, because I assure you, you are not your job. You're not your job. You were likely exceptional at that job, but that job was not you. That's simply a means for you to bring your value into the world. And now you are sitting in an opportunity to find another area where you can continue bringing that value. And you've got all this other stuff that you just learned from your prior role, from your prior experience, that you can continue bringing to the forefront. Next, let's talk about you who remains, who's still on the team, who just is understanding the news that a large part of the workforce, maybe folks that you really had great relationships with, that you loved working with, will no longer be at the company, but you still have a position remaining. Let's talk about some tips to help you navigate this situation. The first tip is for you as well to acknowledge your emotions. Of course, we all know a lot about this idea, this concept of survivor guilt. I want you to name the emotions that you're experiencing. So take some time, reflect. What is the emotion that I'm feeling? Is it guilt? Is it fear? Is this about to happen to me? Is this just the first wave? Is it disappointment? Is it sadness? Name what those emotions are for you. As you're naming these emotions, if it's guilt, if it's sadness, disappointment, regardless of what your emotional energy is, just know this makes you human. And it's completely okay to be feeling these emotions. The second tip that I'd offer is for you to ask yourself really real questions of great meaning. For example, ask yourself, what do I need right now to feel supported and to feel safe? What support would help me show up my full, authentic self again? And once you get an understanding and an idea of what it is that you need to feel safe, to feel supported, that's when you can start engaging with your management. That's when you can start engaging with your peers. Now, of course, you might have managers that are just assuming that you're elated that you still have a job when so many people just lost theirs. But there is a reality that there is perhaps a sentiment of feeling unsafe. This happened to them, but who knows if it could also happen to me. So what support looks like for me moving forward, and of course I want to stay, I'm thrilled to be, continue to contribute, but for me to stay on the top of my game, here's what support looks like for me. And I assure you, your manager is going to welcome this so that they can make sure that you keep showing up your best self. The third tip is to reset trust within the team. Often with these big layoffs, especially when there's team members that are let go that you've, garnered such a deep, meaningful relationship with, there could be trust eroded across the team. And so whether you lead the team or not, I would invite you to sit in a team meeting and say, hey, I would love for us to do a team reset. And really ask yourselves, what do we need to feel trust amongst ourselves? What do we need to feel safe, to continue to support each other? And perhaps an exercise of let's voice and name the feelings and the emotions that we might be experiencing. That will help nurture the trust that you'll need moving forward. And finally, I want to talk to you who's leading the layoff. You who had to make the difficult decision and working with the executive team, working with the senior leadership on what portions of the organization had to be laid off and had to be part of communicating the news. I want to offer you some tips to continue leading in your humanity. Not only do I want you to plan your talking points on how you're going to communicate the impact of the layoff, why the layoff had to happen, but I also want you to plan space for emotions. And I want you to be willing to ask questions and get curious about the emotional energy that's in the room, across your organization or with your team. And I want you to listen and be able to feed back what you're hearing. It is imperative to continue nurturing trust that you not only are very clear with this is why we are doing the layoff, this is why it's important, and this is why the business is going to be better forward, but also time and space to listen to the organization. Because after this big thing happens, there needs to be time for healing. There needs to be time for energy to flow so that you can move forward more engaged and trusting one another moving forward. The second tip, and this is really around how you're communicating the actual layoff, who's impacted, it's about being very clear and candid. Avoid spin. Your employees don't want to be emotionally protected. They want to know the truth. They want to know the clear impact of what the decision means, and they want to know it very transparently. So don't try to sugarcoat anything. Don't try to spin the news. Be very clear, be very honest, be very candid. The fourth tip that I'll offer is just facing a reality that can happen when organizations go through big layoffs, and that is to reinvigorate or restore trust. There could be some that's a bit shaken, especially if this seemingly came out of left field. So make sure you're making space for that you're going above and beyond to listen during your one-on-ones, that you're really being in tune with the workload, and that you're continuing to support your people. And even asking the question, what does support look like for me as we move through these times together? So with that said, I have something free for you, and I think it's something that's going to be very useful in this time of layoffs. Again, no matter what role you might be in. It's a free chapter from my best-selling book, Change Enthusiasm, How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success, that emotion that's running through you right now, that's really challenging as you're facing these times. This knowledge is going to help you moving forward. And so this is completely for free. It's got an introduction to the mindset, and I want you to have that no cost whatsoever. Just click the link below. I wish you nothing but continued authentic success, and I want you to trust you are in this moment for a reason. You're in this moment for a reason. You don't know it yet, but it will become apparent. And until we meet again, keep trusting, keep learning, keep growing, and above all else, keep rocking.